Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you on this June 27th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on today's episode, we have Starbucks continuing to jack up their prices and more updates on the Cobra Kai star who bit a co-star. Turns out he had an accusation last year as well. Then we'll get into this Baldoni whistleblower without a crystal ball is actually reporting now that he's been fired from his company, even with whistleblower status. What does that mean? And this New York City mayoral race is kicking into high gear as everybody, and I mean everybody, is trying to gaslight you into telling you why you can't have a Democratic Socialist run the job. I can't wait to dive into these different thoughts. And then Joe Rogan actually flips the script and defends public land, sharing that he doesn't think the U.S. should sell the public land to, of course, private owners. I think it's absolutely, I agree with him 100%. So I got all these stories, and I just wanted to thank everyone who reached out with kind comments. I told you guys yesterday that I was feeling under the weather. I went to urgent care. I was happy to test negative for COVID and the flu, but they don't know what the heck's going on with me. I've been shivering and really, really weak. So bear with me as I try to get through this. I don't have the threshold for pain. Hopefully we can just get through this because there is a lot to talk about. So first story of the day, let's dive right into the Starbucks prices going up. I mean, geez, the prices are already insane. Now they're going to be now they're going to be charging more. If you want vanilla syrup, come on.
If you like a little vanilla or hazelnut in your Starbucks latte, you're going to want to hear this. The coffee chain is changing its pricing structure for additional flavors. Effective immediately, customers will have to pay 80 cents extra to add syrups and sauces to non-flavored drinks. It'll be the same price whether you get one pump or 4 pumps. Previously, prices varied depending on flavors, number of pumps, and drinks being bought.
All right, they have these drug dealers, they got me hooked on that new horchata. It's like a cinnamon dolce syrup, and now they're going to try to charge me more for it. I'm telling you, this is it. But seriously, I would be embarrassed to tell you guys how much money I've spent at Starbucks this last year. I need a new vice. Give me a new vice. All right, here's a vice. Martin Kove investigated for alleged sexual harassment on 2024 Cobra Kai set. As you guys know, he was just his co-star filed a police report, called 911 on his ass after he bit her, left a mark on her arm. Well, he was accused last year. Sony investigated and reprimanded the veteran actor. Now, he's 80, and I'm not telling you get a pass for being 80. Oh, times were different in the 30s. I don't know about that. Listen, you got to act, and unfortunately, these film sets, people, they don't want to speak up because everyone's so happy to have their jobs, but you got to get this guy out, Reprimand him. Now he's biting people. It's time to go, Grandpa. I don't mean to be ageist, but you're done. Go retire and write him off the show. I mean, what else can you do? He bit somebody. We were playing. What kind of game is that? I don't bite people when I play. All right, so either way, there's your update on the Cobra Kai star. We're going to dive right into this Justin Baldoni story. Again, we've been getting so much of our news from Without a Crystal Ball, Katie here, and she posted earlier this week that this guy, James Vistuca, the journalist for the Daily Mail, is going to be rescinding his affidavit. He's going to be changing it. And there hasn't been anything public that has come out about that. But we do have Perez Hilton also confirming that story, saying his sources also say the same thing, which is he was pressured into signing this affidavit, which was under oath and said, basically, I never claimed that they used the term sexual assault, which again, not that he used it, but that, the PR publicist and folks from Blake Lively's side did. Well, he received whistleblower status, so we've been told, which if your company's done something wrong, unethical, illegal, you're allowed to tattletale on them and not lose your job. At least that's what we thought. So Without a Crystal Ball post, congrats, Leslie Sloan. You wanted to deflect your own bad choices and defamatory conduct onto a journalist. who did nothing wrong, and in retaliation for journalists uncovering the sham lawsuit you all used to launder Jen Abel's stolen data from Stephanie Jones to Blake Lively, you managed to spin the harm you caused and ruin the careers and livelihood of a man that was doing his job and only told the truth about what you did. Your attorneys demanded he apologize to you. For what? He did nothing to you, but you got what you wanted. He's now been silenced and lost everything. Your revenge is complete. You are vile. Now, after reading this, I was a little bit confused because this initial post doesn't say that he was fired. It does hint towards that, but we're getting confirmation in the comment section. So right here in the comment section, how has he been silenced? Without a crystal ball, said he was fired. Now, Daily Mail, a British newspaper, I'm not sure what protections he has over there, but let me tell you this right now. If you are Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire financier behind Wayfair, if you're Justin Baldoni, if you're Brian Friedman, and this, whatever information Vistuca has that can help sink the ship for Blake Lively, let me tell you something right now. You would think that they would make sure that he doesn't starve out there, Listen, you might be fired from the Daily Mail. Start a podcast. Join the rest of us. Hey, there's good money to be made out there, sometimes. Okay, well, speaking of money, I wanted to cover... and again, I think this afternoon we will have more Baldoni updates. But right now, it's just like waiting on, we're getting all of this reporting from Katie without a crystal ball. And we're just kind of waiting to see when it goes through the docket, right? When he's going to formally try to withdraw his complaint. Of course, he's now not, Vistuca is now not working with his former attorneys, which represented Daily Mail. He's working with the Garagos and Garagos, friends of TMZ, friends of Brian Friedman. So he's now got his own protections. And, clearly he thought it was worth his job and his livelihood to do the right thing. So I don't know anything else about him. I'm not claiming that these folks that work at the Daily Mail are moral, but in a moment where maybe he looked himself in the mirror, he decided to do the right thing. So good on him for that. Never too late. All right. So, talking about the New York City mayoral race, there's this idea from Mamdani, who has won the Democratic primary. He ousted Cuomo in one of the biggest political upsets ever, really, in American history. It was a massive political upset. Well, he's a Democratic socialist, and, basically that means he likes progressive policies. He wants to take this sort of crazy wage gap, the wealth gap that exists, which is the greatest since the Gilded Age, and he wants to start taxing the ultra wealthy just a little bit more so that they can fund programs like making sure moms can get daycare for their kids and things like that. I mean, real simple stuff. Take from the rich, give to the poor, but just a little bit, right? 2%, just a little bit of your taxes. We all live in the same city. I wanted to share this TikTok with you guys that explained why it's so important we protect our artists in major cities. Have a listen.
Hey, I just think it's important for me to say this. When Mamdani wins in November and raises the taxes by 2% on the richest New Yorkers to fund social programs like free transportation and childcare, which will make working class and poor people's lives in New York City better and therefore increase the quality of life throughout the city, those rich people will not leave. They will stay. And they will happily pay the 2% in extra taxes to live in a thriving, artistic place. Because New York has always been a place for artists and creatives and families that are working families. And rich people rely on the creativity, the vitality, the fervor that people like us bring to any place they go. And so they will stay because rich people buy their way into places where their creativity could never take them.
Wow. I mean, it's a bold statement. She nailed this. She absolutely nailed this. Looking at you, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. Although I would say, I don't know, maybe Elon Musk has a creative bone in his body with the, architect. I don't really know architecture. But either way, here it was the update. That went super viral. And she then responded to some of the criticisms she received after basically saying, look, we need to coexist, right? Artists don't get paid nearly enough. And people that work in finance make way too much money. So pay your fair share in taxes. I don't see this as a terrible thing. Now, folks will argue, oh, everyone's going to move to Florida now. Really? Over a 2% tax increase that's going to help everyone get free childcare? I don't understand. I think this is something that, has a chance of working.
I'm getting a lot of responses about me saying that rich people buy their way into places where their creativity could never take them. And let me be clear, I'm right. Sorry, your resident Virgo, letting you know I'm right. The energy that people say they feel when they go visit New York, people like me who did not grow up there, and you go into New York, that energy is the energy of the working class and the poor and the creative and the artistic. Okay?
Ah, she's good. Yeah, it's not the energy of everyone marching to Wall Street in their suits. I'm sorry, it's not. Listen, we prioritize the financial, sector and real estate and things, basically where there's a lot of buying and selling, right? But what's the city without art? Without Broadway, without people, anyway, you get the point. All right, here's Eric Adams. He has announced officially he'll be running for mayor. He's the current mayor, and he makes some bizarre disses to Mamdani.
This election is a choice between a candidate with a blue collar and one with a silver spoon. A choice between dirty fingernails and manicured nails.
When Mayor Adams, you just heard him come out and he said soup, silver spoon. He talked about manicured nails to refer to you.
So I'm confused. Does Eric Adams have dirty fingernails? I don't know. That's disgusting. We all have dirty fingernails in New York if you've ever ridden the subway, but that's not the point. Listen, Eric Adams took bribe money to make sure his fingernails never got dirty.
Right? I was looking at him. You can show him to everybody. What do you say to him?
I understand what he's doing. He's trying to distract from his own record. His is a record where he raised rents on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 9%, and he's considering another 8% increase. His is a record of raising the water bill to the highest it's been in 13 years, supporting Con Edison when they wanted to increase New Yorkers' gas and electric bills by $65 a month. I would much rather talk about me than I would about his record if I was him. And so that's what he's going to be doing over the next few months.
Jeez. Listen, this is the Barbara Streisand effect, right? The more they diss him, the more people are going to understand what his policies are. So all of the elites, the wealthy of New York, are sort of coming together. They don't want to pay taxes so badly that they are willing to spend a lot of money to try to get someone else to get them tax cuts. What?
So unless rich New Yorkers band together, donate a lot of money, and create a groundswell for a viable alternative to Mamdani, another great American city is going to swirl down the drain.
What are they talking about? The effort that the rich would go to avoid taxes, they literally would rather spend money that could go to early childhood education or paid family leave, things like that. They'd rather spend the money to make sure their taxes don't go up 2%. Listen, it's like you make $1 million, 2%. That's going to go to help the people that aren't so fortunate. Here is Tim Wall's daughter and her thought about, the big bad progressive movement. And by the way, it is taking the country by storm. So many people that would have voted for Bernie Sanders ended up voting for Trump. So many people in my own family, they did. They'd rather have a fake progressive than no progressive, and that's what they got with Trump, right? He promised them a bunch of things, hasn't delivered. But someone like Bernie Sanders working outside the Democratic Party speaks of this big change. We need people. There's this idea of left versus right, and the idea being that if you go progressive, you're farther left, and then culturally speaking, that gets sort of muddied with liberal, more like culturally liberal, like you call it the woke movement, and they're completely different things. The general progressive movement is just saying a little bit more aggressive tax code for people that make over a certain amount of money, and make sure those taxes go to help out with social programs. We have police officers, we have public services that help cities run better, roads, bridges, things like that. That's where the money would go. So Mamdani isn't trying to defund the police. He's just saying we need more mental health professionals working the streets to make sure we help the problem and not just have cops, tasing each other.
What happened yesterday in New York City happened because progressive policies are popular. I know it might surprise some people, but feeding kids lunch, providing childcare, having accessible and functional public transportation, among many other things, are popular policies.
Like take it from me. I would rather pay more in taxes. And let me tell you, I pay a lot. I'd rather pay more in taxes and help, my son live in a world where people aren't on the fritz, live in a world where you're not wondering if you break your ankle, if you're going to lose your life savings, right? That's what it's all about. Getting off of the fritz. We're done with being in the deep end. People just, they want to go to work. They want to work hard. They want to love their families. They want to succeed. They just don't want to be in the deep end because it is very expensive being poor.
Everywhere. They're popular everywhere. And they're common sense, right? Like when you think about this country, you think about it's a great place to grow up and raise a family and like build your life, or at least that's how it should be. And with that comes feeding kids lunch, allowing people to get to and from work in like a timely, efficient, affordable manner.
And let me tell you something. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Her father did just that as governor in Minnesota, right? He did just that. He provided, breakfast for all public school students. I mean, you shouldn't go to, if you need breakfast, if your family can't provide you breakfast, are we really going to, not think it's okay that we help each other out? We are a large, our country is essentially a bunch of communities, and we need to help each other out in ways that raise up the lower level. Basically, whatever this lower level is of poverty, raise it up a little bit to a decent level. That's all. It's not about giving everybody $1 million a year and sports cars and all this free stuff that Eric Adams probably gets from the Turkish Airlines or whatever, allegedly. It's about just getting people to, have, food stamps. So if they're, a single mom and they can't go back to work because maybe their kid's sick, they're able to feed their family. It's about getting people back on their feet. So, actually, I have 2 Joe Rogan stories. The first one is, this is actually his response. We're going to take a slight detour from the progressive conversation. But by the way, I truly feel this way, that the progressive movement is about to, really gain momentum in the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is going to have to decide whether or not they want to F with the progressives, because you'd be surprised, but there's a lot of people on the Republican side that I think would vote for the right candidate that is speaking towards the middle class the way a progressive would. It all just comes down to getting the right candidate that can share that message. So Joe Rogan had the cops called on Liver King. Apparently he's been stalking him, and Liver King got arrested for terroristic threats. Have a listen to Joe Rogan and what he has said about Liver King.
One of them came up to me in Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my security guards stopped him. He was like, I'm a producer for the Liver King. I'm like, what the fuck do you produce? What are you producing?
Like, how many UFC events did he try and kind of like cozy up?
He was front row at one of my shows in Vegas.
Oh, damn.
At the MGM.
So this guy, he's been following him to shows, and Liver King claims he just wants to be pals with him, but of course he lied about being on steroids. He said he wasn't. He said it was all the raw meat he ate, and so Rogan wants nothing to do with it. I'm sure Rogan's on some form of, he's on testosterone and whatever else, but he doesn't claim that he's not. All right, here's your update on the alligator Alcatraz. And when we talk about the progressive movement, it's about pooling your money together for social services, which is exactly what they've done for FEMA and actually ICE, right? ICE is a social program, part of Homeland Security. It's not one I would want to spend money on. Sadly, our taxpayer monies are going to fund people like that are terrorizing. But this alligator Alcatraz is making a speedy construction. I mean, they're going to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this piece of land. It's like an old airport in the middle of the swamps. And they're just going to be lining up, I guess, FEMA trailers and housing people that are in detention. Do you know how much money this is costing? Like I said this before about rich people, going out of their way to pay for campaigns to make sure they don't have to pay taxes. The amount of money that is being spent to detain people, over 70% of whom have done nothing illegal other than be in this country. They've been ripped from their jobs, their families, and they're just building this prison in a swamp. Absolutely ridiculous. We don't have proper government oversight into what's happening in these detention facilities. Here's a tragic story of a Canadian. He's been in the U.S. for decades. Well, he just died in custody in Florida.
A Canadian citizen has died while in the custody of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. According to the agency, Johnny Noviello died in a detention center in Florida on Monday. He's 49 years old. He had Canadian citizenship, but became a U.S. permanent resident in 1991. In 2023, he was convicted of a number of offenses, including racketeering and drug trafficking. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, posted a statement on X today. She said the government was notified of the death and officials are seeking more information. Investigations into the man's death are...
Now, listen, I've said this before. If you commit a violent crime or obviously like drug dealing, things like this, absolutely get deported. Absolutely. But it doesn't change the conversation about what's happening in these detention facilities. Why did he die? Will there be, when the congresswoman from, I believe, New Jersey tried to go into the Newark detention facility, she got arrested, right? She was accused of assaulting an ICE officer, and she's, going to be charged with crimes that could lead up to 18 years in jail. They're not letting people do the oversight to make sure that these facilities are not similar to concentration camps. There, I said it. We don't even know. And they don't even know where everyone is because everyone's being shuffled around. It is a complete tragedy what's going on out there. I wanted to share this clip with you guys. I found it so interesting. Here's Jake Paul. Not the smartest guy out there, but he's super successful, right? He's on his way to becoming a billionaire like his brother. But he voted for Trump, But listen to his advocacy for healthcare for fighters in the UFC. Have a listen.
The UFC only pays its fighters like 10% of its income, whereas like in the NBA and NFL, the athletes get paid 50% of the total income. So like this is a massive discrepancy. They don't have health insurance, all of these things. And so I just started simply speaking on it, and it became this massive thing between me and Dana White where we just constantly were beefing back and forth for years. But genuinely, I was just like, hey man, you're paying these fighters a minimum of $12,000 for a fight. They're risking their lives. Why not just increase it to $50,000? You're going to make the sport better because they're going to take it more seriously. They won't have to work other jobs. And
by the way, isn't this the exact same claim from progressives? You take a little bit more money off of the rich people. How much is Dana White worth, right? $100 million. Look at this. Let's do it right live. Dana White net worth. I'm going to guess $100 million. $500 million. He's worth $500 million. Can you believe that? $500 million. We did that live. And he doesn't provide health care for his fighters. That's ridiculous, Dana White. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so when Jake Paul here says, I just think you take a little bit extra off the top for those that are really wealthy and give it to some of these people that, aren't making as much. It's like, guy, that's a progressive policy. You voted for Trump, and I'm not knocking anybody who did. I think we need to live in a world where if people made the wrong decisions or voted for the guy who didn't deliver, that's okay. It's all right. But we're all welcome here. You know what I mean? So let's continue talking. Here is Joe Rogan. He says, we can't let them sell public land. So Joe Rogan, hey, like I said, better late than never. Coming out here, he's not publicly, is he publicly slamming Trump? He says, we can't let them sell public land. It's a short-sighted solution with massive long-term consequences. But by the way, Joe Rogan, he supported Donald Trump, but he also was one of those that supported Bernie Sanders. Public land is ours, all of ours, and they're trying to sell it without our consent. Listen how my brother Cameron Haynes lays it out. I'll play that in a second. Senator Mike Lee's latest iteration is more of the same. He doesn't get it or just doesn't care. All we can do is voice our concerns to our senators, governors, representatives, maybe even POTUS, if he wants his big, beautiful bill to ever see the light of day. Please tell anyone else who will listen how we feel about Senator Lee and his obsession with selling public land. Please call, email, or write, share your post, your thoughts and your feelings of being unheard with political leadership in your state. Man, and of course people go, well, then why did you vote for him? Listen, again, I don't have the energy to, listen, welcome people who might have made the wrong decision, and let's get a candidate on the other side that actually speaks to these problems.
He's trying to dupe those people who are, and control the narrative of people who are saying he is listening and cares. He doesn't. For the third time in the last 10 days, he's had another version of selling public land. And in this version here, this proposal says it would force a sale of up to 1.2 million acres of public lands across 11 western states. So it's mandatory. We have to sell this land. That's how this is written. The new version excludes Forest Service land but still targets BLM lands within 5 miles of population zone, which is a vague, undefined term that could apply to lands virtually near any community.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a slippery slope. You start selling public land, but you say, oh, not near this, not near that. And it's like, well, then near what? You know what I mean? I don't trust anybody to be selling this public land.
It says housing. It doesn't say affordable. So this bill is, they write this to where it gives them all sorts of loopholes. But anyway, it says housing, doesn't say affordable, and community development needs. So what does that mean? That could mean anything. The community development needs are also not defined in any restrictive way.
So let me tell you this: they want to sell public land so that they can build houses, not affordable. So they're going to be working with developers. They'll probably be, picking who's going to be the developers. I mean, this is there'll be so much money exchanged if this goes through. I cannot believe we have Joe Rogan here speaking out against it. Now, I'd love for him to speak out against a lot of things, but we'll take it one thing at a time. This is going to be a big story today. All right, well, look, we made it through the end of the episode. I didn't pass out. I came close. I think I'll be back this afternoon. If you want to support my channel, you can catch me later this morning on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Hopefully I'll get my blood results back and I can find out what the hell is wrong with me. But until then, I'm drinking a lot of fluids and I am hanging in there. We'll see you this afternoon. I'm Dave and this is The Rush.